Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I've got the lovely Jason Gravestone, Sam Vanderpump. We're doing part 2. And today we're going to be talking about money, old narratives, sort of busting some myths. And then we're probably going to talk about some other shit as well, probably. But we are going to kick it off with money. I'm going to dive straight in, actually. When it comes to money, we hear a lot of that saying of money's the root of all evil. Let's just open up with that because that's a common one. Is a lot of people think that money leads to bad things. Jason, I'll throw it at you first.
Yeah, I think when it comes to money, the reason there's a clear kind of divide in my mind and my experience of what I've seen with people, people who have money, people who don't, and it's all starts with mindset and this whole idea that money's evil. You've got some kind of negative perception towards money based on an event that's happened to either you or you've seen happen to someone else, like someone's, you know, parents have broken up, lost a house, all that kind of stuff, and that follows you into your life. Um, I've seen, I'm now at a position in my life where I've got people who openly talk about money. Like we'll talk about, Sam will say, I made this much last week, and it's just normal conversation, which it should be, right? It shouldn't be a taboo. And then you see some people kind of wince at like, oh, what a dick for saying how much don't say how much you earn, and you can see that they feel uncomfortable talking about how much people earn openly, and it's very clear to see why some people are able to earn more money than others because it's all this acceptance of money. It's the acceptance to use it for what it is, the medium of fair exchange. So the whole root of all evil thing all comes down to your mindset towards money, and that always comes from something that's happened to you that you've perceived to be negative in the past, either happened to you or you've seen happen to someone else, and you labeled that event as negative
Yeah.
because you didn't see the benefits of it. In reality, something you did, like if you say, oh, my parents split up when I was a kid, if you said, was that a good thing? Like, let's just say you go forward 20 years and you say, was it good that your parents split up? You'd probably say, yeah, it was the best thing that ever happened, actually, because we've had I had 2 Christmases as a kid, I had 2 birthday presents, and, I met this person, and my mum met this partner, and we've been around the world and all this. So it all becomes good all of a sudden, right? But really, you just saw the negative of it, and that's the reason that we hold on to these because we don't see the good in it at the time.
Yeah.
But if you are to have money and you are to do well and accept money and have success with money and be financially successful, you have to get that out of your head. You have to get this, shed this negative perception towards money because it is literally just a tool. It's not good or bad. It
Yeah.
just gives you what you need to then give you options to do the next thing.
Yeah.
And the more of it you have, the more of it can flow, and the more free and flexible your life becomes. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
I think you've hit the nail
That
on
was
the
my
head.
short answer.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you've hit the nail on the head, though. Look, it's an expansion of mindset. I was going to go a bit more generic in the sense it's the person, right? It's
Well, it is really.
we live in a capitalist society, so the whole, I think Karl Marx himself defined capitalism as the crux of the evil, whole capitalist thing is it is money. Now, yes, it is inherently it runs a capitalist society. So we either have to use this to the best of our ability and use the tools around us to make sure that we can do better. But it's not the money which is the evil problem. It's actually the individuals. So I've seen people who, I think we mentioned someone earlier, Simon Squibb, for example. Someone who does really well in his whole podcasting thing, and he goes out and he's used what he's done in life to help better people, to help people get into business. And that's someone who has earned money and is using it to help people. He's someone who's done good leading on from that. Now, there are many, many people in my life that I've met, and this is probably the association of money is the crux of all evil and all of this, where unfortunately money turns them into a nastier person. And it's not the money, it's the person. And then that's what people, I think, unfortunately get their head around, as they don't like the actual person rather than, and then they blame it on the money.
Yeah.
But I think you're completely right. It's a tool to allow us to do what we want to do.
Yeah, and there is only one way to get money, and I say this a lot, but you get it from another human, right?
Yeah.
So the only 2 ways that you get it from another human is you either serve them.
Yeah.
I've never met a billionaire who hasn't served millions of people. It's
Yeah.
impossible. I'm sure.
Fair exchange.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone has got, Facebook or uses Facebook. I'm sure everyone's used a PC and given money to Bill Gates. You know, to get that level of money, they have served millions of people. So there's no evil about that.
Yeah.
The other way to get it from another human being is to beat them at using a skill at a game, boxing, poker, golf, trading, some kind of zero-sum business where it's like win a loser. And that, in my opinion, is where you see some of the kind of greediness and the evil take place, because they become power obsessed with them being the winner and there being no other winners.
Yeah.
So you see people in power, for instance, who just become obsessed with having the most money for them. It's a very selfish kind of motive, and they're not looking to serve anyone. But for most part, that's a very hard business to do long term as well. You have to be some kind of dictator, because you've got an inner desire to want to be fulfilled, and you only get fulfilled from serving someone or helping someone,
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the person.
So it's mostly good. It's mostly used for good. In my opinion.
I think there's something I want to touch on. So it is a mindset. So this is something I've been talking a lot about recently, especially on my short form content. Is it's very easy to convince someone you can't do that, and people will believe it.
Oh yeah.
You can't earn £1 million. No, I probably can't. It's very hard to try and convince people. You could actually, in today's day and age, make $1 million net. You could. People go, so. Like, it really is, like you say, the mindset. Yeah. And I think the mindset dramatically improves. And when we don't have enough conversations around money, we don't hang around, or the general population don't hang around with people who want to make more money. So it doesn't become a normal conversation.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like a possibility. And I really think the core reason so many people have a bad relationship is have a look at the 10 people that you're around. Like, open up your WhatsApp and really who's trying to make more money in the right way. Because like you say, if someone's an arsehole and you give them more money, they become the bigger arsehole. Yeah. The green paper isn't evil.
Yeah.
Like, it's a vehicle, isn't it?
I do think it's good to be around people with the other side opinion, though, because otherwise you get a little bit too away with the fairies. Or, like, for instance, if you take siblings or family, like one of my sons, he says, I could never earn $1 million. The other one is like, I will definitely earn $1 million, or I am able to earn $1 million. And the way that we come from evolution, the way we grow up through evolution, you see that siblings are usually polar opposites. And that's basically, from an evolutionary standpoint, to give us the biggest chance of survival by diversifying our skills in our family. So one will be more academic and logical, one will be more kind of empathetic and, caring, and one will look after the family, one, all that kind of stuff. So when you see that natural balance in action, I think it's a good thing to be around, because I know people say get away from all negative people and all the rest of it, but sometimes you do need someone to sense check what you're going after. There was a time where I was just surrounded by people telling me I was great, and I put on about 5 stone. I got fat. I just started to believe it, and I was like, yeah. And also, I just stopped striving. I stopped pushing. Yeah. I become complacent because everyone was telling me I was great. So I'm of the opinion I like a challenge. I like people around me saying, well, you can't do that, or have you checked? I don't see it as negative, really. No. When I say I'm going to launch this thing and it's going to do really well and I'm all excited, and my wife might say, but have you thought about that? I don't see it as like, oh, why are you putting a rain on my parade? I see it as, oh, yeah, actually, she's have I thought about that?
Yeah.
And I like to
have a blend. Have other people's opinion.
Yeah, I do. I don't shy away from it at all.
Yeah, I actually think there's something that's really interesting in today's society, which is I see what you're saying, but also on the sense of going back to what you're saying, the people you hang around with, and it's this kind of, if you hang around people who, aren't in the mindset to strive, to want more, to, be obsessed with their work, people who are lazy. If you're around that environment, it does rub off on you. I've had it firsthand myself. Yeah. And I have to suddenly take a step back and go, hold on a second, I'm not around the right people anymore. So much so that I've seen people who, with no disrespect for them, weren't the most intelligent in the room. Yeah. They weren't the hardest working in the room. But it leads me to the point of law of attraction, is fake it till you make it. Yeah. And these people will literally pretend to be in this wealthy club or around these wealthy people, and they all go, oh, then you can tell you're thinking they're never going to make it, and then one day something just clicks because they're constantly surrounding themselves with
Right
it.
time, right place.
And it's amazing. And I've seen it in numerous of cases around, certain friendship groups. And I can't believe how much that actually happens. Like, if you really fake it till you make it, it will happen. And I've seen it time after time.
It's funny you say that, because Mikey Pierce, I interviewed Mikey Pierce, and obviously he's with Verity. They started what was it? Can't remember what the food company was. But even Clean Kitchen.
Yeah.
But even Mikey turned around and said, "My best advice is I just I faked it until I made it." That was literally it. I just hung around the right people. And it's funny, I told Paul this story yesterday. It was on Steve and Sully, I think. There was a guy who literally blew up on YouTube because he managed to sneak into McGregor's dressing room on the opening of Mayweather and McGregor. He managed to, no one questioned him why he was in the dressing room. He managed to live stream and film a YouTube video whilst doing the walkout. And then he sat with McGregor's family at ringside, and he blew up, and he got something like 2 million subs, and he had viral videos. But it was right place and right time. And this is something I want to talk about, is that when it comes to money, starting a business, actually understanding that you can do more than what you're already doing, is that one, massively, yes, it's a mindset. I think we can agree on that. Two, it's around the right people, but education as well, like learning. Like when people say, well, you're saying earn more money, and I'm thinking of some of my content where people have said, oh, you're saying earn more money. What does that even mean? Learn. Do what I did. If you don't know about money, learn. Like, we have everything at our fingertips. Like, this is incredibly powerful, but why don't some people understand it?
And there's multiple ways of learning. That doesn't necessarily, I mean, my bestest way of learning is literally surrounding myself with the right people and experience. So I'm, someone who will just, if I'm around the right people who actually know more than me, and I can surrender that they know more than me, and all of a sudden I will pick up their knowledge. And that's my greatest advice: is experience firstly, don't give up. So I think I entered a new business, about 2 years ago. I didn't know much about that business when I entered it, but now 2 to 3 years later, I would say I'm an expert in that field.
You've been a sponge.
Exactly. Sponging, surrounding myself with the right
people,
the experts.
It's immersive.
And once you do that, all of a sudden you'll walk into the room and you'll realize how you'll carry the conversation. You'll be an expert in your field. Being an expert in your field is one of the biggest things to be able to do. And if you can do that, if you can master that, then you'll be able to sell it better than anyone else, and you'll be able to make more money from it.
And just quickly, there's one saying, I saw this, I absolutely loved it, is that you never run 100-meter against people that you're always going to beat.
No.
You're never going to run your quickest time because you know you're going to beat them, but you always run against people that are faster than you, because you're going to be, it's like London to Brighton. That's why me and Jason led the front. We knew you were going to do your best time.
Don't know what happened in London to Brighton.
But it is, it's true. But it is true, isn't it? Run against people that are quicker than you.
I think Russell Brunson in one of his books spoke about the Catch Me If You Can. Frank Abagnale Jr. duped everyone, and they collared him when they caught him, and they said, look, how did you fool a university into being a lecturer, and how did you get away with it? And he said, all I had to do was be one paragraph ahead of the students. And it's true. All he was doing was learning up, teaching down, learning up, teaching down, and it was only like teaching people a paragraph behind. So if he was to become an expert, it's easier than you think, because an expert is relative to where you're at in the journey, right? It's like, I might think I'm an expert at financial markets, but there's people that are way ahead of me, know things that I'll probably never know. So, there's
always another benchmark.
So I think, going back to the point, is people think that they have to be like the end game before they start considering themselves as experts.
But also, I think a lot of people hold themselves back by this freaking word that's gone around. I don't know who made it up. Imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I mean, who validates imposter syndrome? Oh, I don't think I should start. Yeah. Oh, I can't do that. I shouldn't be earning that money because that's not where I come from. Yeah. I can't learn that. Like, imposter syndrome is a huge killer to people thinking, well, should I start a podcast? Mm-hmm. Should I really go from 45 grand to 100 grand? Who am I? So where did imposter syndrome come from? And it does hold many people back, right?
I mean, in response to that, all you have to do is look at some of the, the new money billionaires of our time. And, some of them have crashed as much as they rose, but all of them weren't coming from big backgrounds. all of them were just actually blindly motivated. I mean, I'm going to talk about, the WeWork CEO, the Uber CEO. All of them were just blindly motivated by, and both of them, neither of them were actually intelligent. Like, I mean, I'm saying this
Clearly.
now.
Like
Yeah,
academia
I mean, well,
stuff.
look at the end
Yeah,
end
yeah.
goal, but but the sense, it was just that blind motivation. That's why, I think it was. What was it? WeWork CEO. He managed to get SoftBank to just keep on giving him hundreds of millions. I mean, it was the biggest, craziest raise of money we've ever seen in this lifetime. But he was just so blindly motivated to get the job done that he convinced other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
That's the opposite of imposter syndrome. That's that's like delirium, where you what do they call it? Where you think you're just something that
Well, it's like
you're not.
almost like the Donald Trump effect. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm in billions worth of debt, but I can still borrow money.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like, and he just and he still uses borrowed debt to buy.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like banks now have to lend him money because otherwise,
Yeah.
it's a total financial collapse. But
There's 2 points to what you said though. Like there's belief as well that it is possible, and that's being around people and seeing other people do it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't think that it's possible, then you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
But the imposter syndrome side is feeling that you're not good enough to do it. So, one, can it be done? Well, you get that belief by being around other people that have done it. But two, can I do it?
Yeah.
That's usually down to you looking up to someone in fear of their judgment of you. So
yeah,
imagine if you went on stage, because I had this once. I spoke at the London Investor Show for the first time on the main stage, and I thought, oh, some of these people just know more than me. But then what I realised is every single person in that audience is one person, and they're looking at me from their perspective, and they're taking something from me as one person. So when I realised, actually, I'm just talking to lots of one persons,
yeah,
it becomes a lot easier. And if you imagine, like, if you was to go and speak to a kindergarten or a nursery of kids, you probably wouldn't have imposter syndrome.
yeah.
Whereas if you stood up on you're thinking of someone in that audience who's judging you, who's going to be going, pulling you up.
We're
on
trying to
something.
validate
Yeah.
who should even be there.
Yeah, exactly. So my advice is, like, think about who that is, and then think about where you're better than them.
Yeah.
Where you've got it together in life better than them, because there will be something, and it just allows you to kind of pull them down off a pedestal.
But we are in a world of possibility, right? And something I want to sort of touch on in a minute, just before we do, is that being around people who are doing what you want to do is like the blueprint, right? It's almost your answer. So I always find that, when people have these goals or they talk about they want to do something, just get around those people. It's the quickest way. Like you say, you just get around them, be a sponge, learn. But most importantly is the application, like the doers. Like, I need to raise this amount of money. I'm going to raise the money. And it just, I think it's that almost life of equilibrium. If you keep putting it out, regardless, you ignore the noise, laser focus, like you were saying, so determined. And I want to talk about sacrifice and discipline, but getting around people, like, obviously, in terms of how we're working together, it's great for me. Do I believe I can earn 7 figures? Yeah, because I'm around a lot of people who do 7 figures plus. Why couldn't I? As long as I apply everything I'm learning. So I want to talk about discipline. This is like huge for me. For me personally, I've been given nothing, but discipline has been like my game changer. I'm just too disciplined not to step out and be in blurred lines. Like, I know exactly what I've got to do. How have you found, for both of you, that discipline has been a key trait in order to progress and, see results?
Yeah, I mean, discipline, I think, is nearly as big as belief. And I think it ties in with self-belief, because it's someone who's self-believing and thinking that they're blindly going to do it is absolutely so disciplined. And for me, I've actually been someone who has battled from someone who has been extremely disciplined when I was 18, 19, 20, to the point where I worked all my way up through the city, started running my own company. And then there were points along my cycle, along my journey, where my discipline dropped off. And you can notice that because my growth wasn't the same. And the moment I picked my discipline back up and my belief again, my spike in my journey was crazy. And so I've really had a roller coaster of ups and downs, not necessarily downs, but ups and stabilization when my discipline's dropped off, because you hit another goal and it's keeping that velocity, that speed, and so I struggled with it. And for me, once you're disciplined, once you're in the right mindset, and I think one of our first podcasts, we were saying, discipline comes from getting to the gym, getting to work at a certain time, not going out and drinking too much, etc., etc. So for me, I think discipline is, top of the pile with some of the other things we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just about playing a longer game as well. Like, it's belief that if you do something habitually, you'll get a better result, and that comes from having a long-term belief, like Sam said. And as you mentioned, there's times where you plateau because you get closer to the goal. I'm an engineer, and from my engineering background, we used to have something called proportional gain, and what it is like how you set your temperature control, and you kind of set it to overshoot so that when you reach the temperature, it kind of stabilizes around the goal rather than as it gets there, close off again. And you kind of have this forever not hitting it. Like, you might be losing weight, and then as you start feeling good and you've lost the stone, you're not at your weight, but you go, oh, I'll have a Chinese to celebrate, and you kind of get a bit comfortable with that, and you kind of never really hit it, and you go sideways. Whereas if you can overshoot, that's where you surpass the goal, and then you maintain the new level. And to do that, you have to be disciplined.
Like those climbing blocks.
Yeah. It's habitual. Just, I need to keep doing this regardless of my emotion.
Yeah.
Which might be a motivation or something. I need to just keep doing it if I feel good or if I feel bad, because I know that will get me to the new me.
Do you know, this is interesting, right? One thing that's worked for me, and sometimes I think this can be a bit of a bad thing. My old man, right, is totally disconnected with his emotions, right? It comes from his childhood and stuff like that. I won't bore you with the story, but I've almost taken part of that on, where I can disconnect. So when it comes to social media, a lot of people suffer with the whole anxiety, depression, because they've gone all in. Maybe they've had some growth, and then, like an actor, they get nothing, and then they're like, oh my God, no one wants me. And then they fall into this pit of, like, oh my God, what's my life come to? I can disconnect, and I can kind of do that in pretty much every area of my life. And what that's allowed me to do is just stay so focused on what needs to be done with no distractions and no care for what other people think in terms of their opinion about what I'm doing, if I believe it's right for me.
I think that's because you've got an objective for the purpose of social media, though, whereas a lot of people tie their self-worth to likes and
it's the vanity metric, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think when you can come away from, because we spoke about social media before, when you can come away from what everyone else is doing and they're keeping up with the Joneses, you start making better decisions, like money. I don't know if you're ever asked this. I'm sure, Jason, you get it all the time. But one of the things that I get on my live streams is, Aaron, I've got don't talk about investing because of all the scam accounts, but what should I invest my money in? I've got $1,000, I've got 30 grand. Oh, yeah. Have you got an emergency fund? No. Right, well, let's not even get into it. And I don't want to advise, because you should be taking control of your finances. Yeah. Like, I feel that we're looking through this lens to try and find our answers, and no one has the discipline or accountability.
If you can't save some money, you can't do any investing, because because it requires you to take not only take your money that you've saved and built a nice lumber, but then put it in the hands of the market, which you are just going to be so emotionally on tilt. You're not going to be able to do that, right?
I think I watched one of your videos, it was like there was no get rich quick sort of scheme, but it was people want to put all their money in, and you said only put 10% per allocation, and you put allocation aside, something which you could affordably lose. Yeah. It was a really good video that you did actually on it.
Yeah, and the reason I say that is because you're going to be emotionally, like, everyone's emotionally attached to money. So you need to have some there to know that you're not going to lose the farm or your shirt before you start putting it in the market. Because when you put it in the market, it's going to not only require money, it's also going to require your ability to remain emotionless and calm and trust that process. And if you haven't got, if you're putting everything you've got and you can't afford to pay for the dinner, and you're putting all that in the hands of the market gods, what hope have you got? You're really...
But this is like what we were saying, is, when you start to earn money, it's that control of going, oh, I've earned some money, I'm going to spend it all. Oh, fuck, I'm actually in surplus what I was. Yeah. It's having that control to earn more money, control it, manage it. Earn more money, control, manage it. Actually have some accountability.
I've actually got a contrasting belief on that. Funny you say that. And this comes from more of a sales background, right? And I don't know if this is
toxic.
Yeah.
Spend your money. Yeah. You get this Rolex if you get the most. He's got a Rolex this month.
Even now on his head, it's literally like, you manage a sales force, a sales team, and you go every time they come in, the more money they spent, the more energy, the more fire they had in their bellies to come in the next day and earn more money, which inevitably actually made them grow more.
Makes you more money. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, contrasting belief, I don't know. That's very
Detrimental
toxic.
to your mental health, though.
I think I do agree with that, right? Because there are, but I think you've got to be that certain type of person. Like I'm a person where I've had cases in the past where I've like had no money and my back's against the wall, but because my back's against the wall, I pull my finger out even more so. I think there's that, like, so there are some people that say, well, if I go and buy a Porsche, I'm going to have to earn more money than that. It's like a driver, but majority of people, that's like an absolute flop. And again, this whole...
Not something I'm recommending, guys.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's a contrasting belief. It's out there.
But there are some people that perform well in that, but then they get stuck in the cycle, right?
Well,
They never really break out and build something perhaps of their own because they're in that cycle of earn, spend.
And the people I'm talking about here that act like this, no one wants to be like at this time.
They end up on drugs. 25 years old, they're like in rehab. Like
I think, and still living in house shares at the age of 30.
Well, how does it go?
Or whatever it is.
I've met a lot of people in the brokerage industry, and trading industry. There's a lot of people that I've met like that.
Yeah.
And sales, I've met sales teams like that as well. But going back to what you said about like the emergency fund thing and what you said at the beginning about belief of possibilities and seeing opportunities and things like that, there is a immediate return on investment by having a cash buffer in your bank because you just talk differently, you see different things. If you know for the next 3 months or 6 months that you're going to be okay if you lost your job tomorrow, you start to talk differently to your partner, you start to talk differently to your kids, your colleagues, your boss, you start to see opportunities that you couldn't see before because you was working every hour, and you become better. And a real example is if I was a builder and I'd done some work on your house and you said, look, before I pay you this last sum of money, I've got some snags and I've skint. I'm just going to get uptight. I'm going to be aggressive. I need my money. Just pay my money. I'll go around. You're not going to pay me what you owe me. You're not going to recommend me. And I'm stuffed. Whereas if I had the money in the bank, I'd just say it'd be a completely different conversation. Aaron, I want to make sure we've got a long-term relationship. I'm going to come around, make sure it's all good. You'll pay me more, plus a tip probably, plus recommend me to all your friends. And then you've got an instant income growth.
Clearer. It's financial empowerment, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
But just by having that cash in the bank gives you more income.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Otherwise, we see those toxic Instagram videos where people start knocking down the work.
Turning up with a full
Exactly.
Exactly. And he smells like, you haven't paid me for my work, and he smashes the whole wall.
Yeah. And you get all the others on there. You're dead right, mate.
But it is
I'd have done
true.
the same thing.
Yeah.
But you know what though? I think this is where like bury your head in the sand. Ignorance is bliss for some people because as you move on in life, I think your choices throughout life start to show and reveal themselves as you get a little bit older, and you start thinking, I'm not financially where I should have been or where I wanted to be. And then this whole, we've spoken about it a million times, but this kind of like, they call it that midlife crisis, but really it's just a point in your life where you're looking back and you're thinking, I'm not where I should have been. Is that, and then you start, I think people self-reflect. Did I make the right, did I go on too many holidays? Did I buy that car too early and overpay? And, I think you get to a point where really some people do bury their head in the sand, and then they become a little bit bitter towards people who do talk about money, because I think people think, fuck, if I could have gone back, I'd have been like you.
Yeah.
I think regret is one of those worst emotions that one can have, because there's this big thing, like, you don't live in the past. You can live in the future, but you have to live in the present.
Yeah.
And if you're living in the past, you're not going to be focused on your present, which allows you to then enjoy your present and get further in the future. Regret is one of the worst things. So if you have ever been in that situation where you are looking back and going, oh, should I have done that? You need to go, it's done now, move on from it, learn from it, and make it work better for you in the future.
Yeah.
Regret's one of the worst things ever to have,
But I'll tell you what, just quickly, with regret, I feel that you can avoid regret when you can suck up sacrifices. We've spoken a lot about this. But sacrifices, I don't know why people find it so hard to sacrifice shit. For the short term, like, go through some pain. Like, stop doing mundane, time-wasting, money-draining shit. Why can't people stop doing that?
I think the only poor money decision, I think anything in life, like the only poor decisions we make is doing it for someone else or to impress someone else or to look like you're something else that you're not. Otherwise, you're all right. Like if you're not financially independent by the time you're 40 and you can, you're happy with what you're doing in your life and you enjoy your life and you enjoy your work, and then something's gone wrong, right?
Yeah.
And usually it's because you've been doing things because either you've been told that that's what you should do and you've followed blindly along, or you've done it for the wrong reasons, impress other people and all the rest of it, right? But ultimately, our goal is just to do what we love every day and get paid enough to have the experiences that we want in our life. So without beating yourself up too much, look at your situation now and say, am I at that position yet? Yes or no? If not, what have I got to stop doing where I'm doing it to please other people to get me in this position where I might not have enough to like sit on a beach all the time, but I'm going to want to do something for the rest of my life. Is it something I enjoy? And am I getting paid enough for that? And move yourself into that situation a bit more. So you might have to work until you're 80, but I'm going to work till I'm dead because I want to, right? We want to work. That's what we want to do. I don't want to sit doing nothing.
Well, it was funny. I was on a live stream last night and someone said to me, they came straight off the back of one of my videos about walk slowly in the workplace. And someone said, well, what is it you do? And I'm like, I've answered this a million times, but I do this and I do this. And they went, oh, that just sounds so stressful. I'd rather just remain in my job. And I was like, no. Oh, let me just caveat that. I love what I do.
Yeah.
By the way, none of that was stress, by the way. Like none of that was stress because Monday to Monday, I love what I do.
Yeah.
I don't answer to anyone.
And that's the goal. I think people push yourself into that more rather than thinking I've got to end up with millions of pounds that I don't have to do anything. That's unrealistic anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, what would you rather be? I mean, this is the biggest thing. Obviously, money, the long-term goal can come from nearly any profession you want. So that shouldn't be your main driver of why you go into a profession. What would you rather do, though? Let's say if there's going to be one profession that was going to earn you, make you comfortable for you the whole life, but you absolutely loved it every single day, or another profession where, okay, we worth 100, 200 million or 10 to 100 million, but you are depressed and you hate your job every single day.
Yeah.
I'd much rather go for the first
Exactly.
option.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Live on less, but more time freedom, more purpose, more fulfillment. And it's funny, I actually had one guy turn around to me as I was talking about money on this live stream. He came out of nowhere and he said, what a load of rubbish. Don't listen to this guy. Build a career. I'm now on 250 grand as an MD in a company. I've worked my way up. And I thought, fucking, how many hours are you doing for 250?
Well,
you're not taking 250.
That's a great example of what Sam just said. I had an accountant who's still my accountant today, and he went through 4 years of university and all the rest of it. Then he worked his way up into an accountancy, then started his own partners and all this kind of stuff. And he probably capped out at about 160 grand. So years and years of doing that, 160, 180 grand a year he's earning. After I was an electrician and I became good at investing, and I did 1 year of basically working with some private clients, Skype, 1 hour a week, telling them investment strategies and things like that. And I did 100 grand in the first year of just doing that, a call a week.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, I didn't do any university. I haven't got any degree. I don't know the first thing about accounting. I know a bit, but it bores the life out of me. Like accounting, I hate it.
Yeah.
Hate for that VAT, tax, all the payroll stuff and all that. It does my head in. But, 2 years, 3 years, if I'd kept that up, I probably would have been on about £500,000 just doing that. And it's like, I didn't need to do any of that stuff, right? So I was just sat at home on Skype and I picked a skill, something I really enjoyed. Something I really enjoyed learning and implementing myself. And then you can just teach that.
Well, this is it. If you love it, it will eventually convert into currency,
It
right?
does, yeah.
And then going back to my point, when I make the kind of analogy or comparison even between two jobs, one which earns you a bit more and one earns you a little bit less, but you enjoy one and you don't enjoy the other. Obviously I'm not saying, go for a job which only earns you 20,000 a year. I'm saying do something which you enjoy, because nearly all professions in this world can earn you money.
Yeah.
If you enjoy it and you're doing something, you love, nearly everything can actually get you to the financial goal you want to get to. So start with something that might have a short-term pay sacrifice, but in the long term, not only are you going to enjoy your profession the whole time, but actually you might even get further. because you're enjoying it and you put more time and effort into it.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to think of it this way. If you're loving the thing you're doing, when you've done your 9 hours a day of the thing you hate, you're going to end up giving up at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But if you're doing something you love, what happens? You're at home 9 o'clock at night. You're still doing that thing.
Yeah.
You're waking up at 6 a.m. You're like, I need to get on with my
Time
work.
goes quicker.
Yeah, time goes
Yeah,
quicker, and you plow more time into it. So
It's crazy, isn't it?
passion is
Because
everything in
I
this life.
watched, dude, it was one of your videos where you said it's ironic that people will say, "Oh, what a waste of time," or "That seems like a waste of time." But yeah, that's coming from people who sit there watching 5 hours of Netflix, and they'll still moan about their job. Where people, I say when people ask me, "What do you work?" Well, just Monday to Monday.
Yeah.
But I have, I have time off. Like yesterday, I just spent the whole day shopping in town, but I'll work in the evening.
It's a difficult concept. It's a difficult conversation to have with people because they see work as a. And again, this goes back to like the school thing, where a lot of it is belief on what we can earn in certain professions. The whole grading system in school is like, if you get this grade, you can qualify for these professions, and in these professions, this is the income brackets in these professions, and they limit everything, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the example I just gave, I was a financial advisor earning more than an accountant
Uncapped.
from doing no school, school.
It doesn't stop.
And whatever profession you go into, as Sam just said, you can earn, there's no limit. There's no cap on income. I know fitness trainers that earn £45 an hour, and I know fitness trainers that earn 700 grand a year, doing 2 clients. So there's,
But this is the insane thing, right? When you go into business, like real quickly, when you hear the word business, a lot of people in general will think warehouse, office, employees, staff, vehicle. They paint this massive image. It's really not. Like, you can just work from home, you can wherever, right? So entry is very low barrier now, right? Starting is very low barrier. The mindset to become the person is the hardest part, but also like learning to enjoy something and solve a problem and learn to sort of like take on a new skill set. Whereas the landscape has changed, right? It's like you're saying, uni, college, school, they'll teach you can be this, you can be this. This is your cap. Aim towards that and you'll do all right, and work 40, 50 hours. The landscape is so different, but no one talks about the landscape because, again, it's a bit taboo.
Well, I think your biggest problem, though, is if we did educate everyone that you could do whatever business, you'd have no worker bees essentially left, right?
Exactly.
That's the problem. So you essentially have to have everyone believing that they can only be a worker bee, and I don't know why I use the term worker bee, but that's essentially what I'm going for here.
In the most non-offensive way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to get some hate for that one, aren't I? That's the problem. So, but you can literally do anything. There's no barriers to entry anymore when it comes to business, right? You can literally do anything you want. If you want to have a furniture company, you can dropship furniture.
Yeah.
There are people doing these e-com stores now. You can set it up overnight and you can be dropshipping furniture. I have a friend that actually goes into it and just resells, resells melatonin gummies on Amazon. It's making loads of money from that every single month. Doesn't even lay hands on the physical good. It's absolutely fantastic. But that's a furniture company. Previously, going back 20, 30 years, you'd have to set up the infrastructure, the warehouses. Have the shop, all of these things.
Traffic is just limited by who walks past the shop.
Exactly.
Yes.
In this world today, you can literally do anything such from a small scale to a large scale. I mean, Mr. Beast, look at that. He's a fantastic example of someone who started from doing his, social media stuff to growing into one of the biggest businessmen out there.
Well, it's insane. And this is like entry is so low. Like I said to Jason at the beginning of the week, right? I wanted to just do a quick series on TikTok because like TikTok, you can create like payable series, right? Literally at home, set up the camera, whack this quick series on how to grow on TikTok, put it up. Sold like in the first week, sold nearly 60 copies in the first week. It's, just from tagging it in a couple of videos. And I haven't really pushed it either. Like I'm not really a pushy person because that organic funnel, like just having people like warm, genuine, hot leads, is so obtainable. But you've got to, again, going back, well, people will be going, okay, cool, I really want to do that. How'd you do it? Learn. You've got to learn a new skill set. You want to make more money? Learn.
Yeah.
You want to learn how to trade? Learn from someone who's doing it.
Yeah.
But don't be a librarian. You've got to apply.
Yeah.
That's the trick.
Yeah, I think
Do it.
I think people watching this are the sort of people that obviously want to learn, but there's going to be people that don't, and I do see people trying to kind of fight with them, argue with them, and all the rest of it. But there's a great saying, and it's from a book called the Cabalian, and it's never toss the pearls before the swine because they get trodden into the mud with their disgusting food. And basically, it means there's no point sharing things that are esoteric to you and your level of network to people who just
Don't get
can't
it.
hear it.
Yeah.
They just can't understand it. They'll just never,
You're wasting your breath.
yeah, wasting your breath. They'll never take it in. You'll be crucified for it. You'll be the
Yeah.
witch, the weirdo, and you just have to say the right things to the right people rather than try and beat
Yeah.
down on people that just aren't there yet.
This podcast was kindly sponsored by Sound and Vision Production Studios in Bromley. They are the one-stop shop studio for all of your content creation needs, that be long form or short form. They are empowering creativity through high quality audio and visual productions. So what are you waiting for? Step into the world of content creation, book a session with these guys. They know what they're doing and they'll be able to take you to the next level. Just quickly, do you know what's really funny about the whole money thing, right? I talk about private medical care. Like that's one thing that I think is quite important. You know, if you can afford it and you can be seen quicker, I think it's one of those like important things, right? Now, whether it's private medical care, whether it's having a family holiday, whatever it might be, a lot of people write it off. Oh, I can't afford that. You know, cost of living is absolutely crippling me. We'll touch on cost of living very quickly, but when people say I can't afford it, even if you just average out fags, booze, going out, maybe a little cheeky Ruby Murray every now and again.
Yeah.
Maybe a little Chinese. Maybe you buy some new trainers or whatever. Just add it up over the month of an average family or whatever, or person. And then you do that over the year. You've probably got 3, 4, 5 grand of a pot sitting there, right? But they don't want to acknowledge that pot because that's a materialistic luxury pot. That's that, well, I enjoy those things. Yeah, but let's just have some short-term pain for the next 2, 3 years and let's put that into something bigger.
That's the thing. They're not willing to endure the short-term pain. The market's gone up and down for years. You know, I've studied the last 92 years of recessions, and the market goes up and down, up and down. It gets elated and depressed.
By the way, Jason's 136. He just looks really good.
I've studied it, I've studied it a lot. And with that, the inflation rate, mirrors that. And people are climatized to a lifestyle in a short period of time. So they've had it off for like the last 10 years or whatever. And they've been loving it, right? But what they haven't realized is every now and then it goes harder.
Yeah.
And if you don't plan for that longer term mean growth of that market, then you're going to be up and down with the market. You're going to be stressed and depressed, and then you're going to be cocky and buy Range Rovers and spend it on Bitcoin and playing cards and all this kind of stuff. And then you're going to lose the house. You want to just plan. And you want to ride the wave rather than flipping drown in it.
But planning's boring, Jason.
Planning's boring.
Planning's
Live for
boring.
today.
YOLO.
You might die tomorrow. You might get hit by a car tomorrow. Those sayings come from people who have no value on financial freedom, and there's no point even arguing with them.
YOLO, Sam?
Yeah. No, it's funny. I completely agree with everything that Jason says. And I contrast to what he says. Obviously, I come from a sales background, which is very much of those sayings. And for, I would say it was, for the amount of money which I was earning.
Yeah.
With the amount of money which I was earning, it was actually pathetically sad how little savings I had. And it actually only was, probably within the last 2 years when I actually, or 3 years, I made that sort of, what the hell am I doing kind of thing. I actually could be in a hell of a different position if I was just smarter with my money, the money I've earned over the last few years. And I think I worked it out. And just on the basis of putting 10% of my wages into an ISA and a pension, 10% each, over the last, I think it was 8 years, I would have been sitting on an extra, say, £1 million or something. Like, it was ridiculous. Anyway, so the last 2 years, I've now been pouring into pensions and ISAs. It's just one of my little side, saving strategies. And it was like, it really took I think it was when I finally sold another company, and it was before I sold the other company, I was kind of looking, going, what the hell is going on here? Why do I not, because I was here speaking to people who were earning a fraction of what I was earning, but had 3 or 4 houses. And I'm like, there's something going wrong here, right? And it was that decision. So completely.
Yeah, that behaviour is like a cancer.
Compound effect.
And inflation as well. That is that is the silent killer. That is the cancer of wealth building. Inflation. If you don't counter that and you don't plan for that, what happens is all the time they say, "Oh, I want to be a millionaire or I want to get a million in 20 years," and you get to 20 years and you got a million, but actually because of the living costs, it's going to be worth about 400 grand because every 20 years the cost of, like, it will double. So that your value of your money will decrease by half, roughly, on a 3% inflation rate. So people are chasing this moving goalpost all the time, and then they start worrying, and they go, "Shit, I need 2 million," and then it's like, oh, and then it's panic.
But this is the funny thing. But they'll still think, a lot of people will assume that investing will make you cash rich. Investing will get you out of the job. Investing will beat inflation. It's cash flow. Like, that's the first thing. The more cash flow, the more investing you can do, and that keeps you ahead of inflation. That keeps you beating the game. And just quickly, I want to touch on is this whole cost of living situation, right? The media. I actually took a video of my local newspapers, right, and I won't show it on here, but I'm going to do a video on it. Now, I took a video. I went along all of the newspapers in my local supermarket, right? And it's just horrific. It's just terrorism. It's political corruption. It's just murder in the local area. Everything. Like, now,
very happy news,
it's just so driven to just really pressure people and keep people very, sort of suppressed, to not go on and actually realize that a lot of it is very dramatic. And a lot of people buy into this cost of living. So, for example, I've been talking a lot about this. Yes, petrol has gone up by 60p. It has. Okay. But if you're not aware of it, I don't mean ignorance, but if you're not aware of it and you're like, right, petrol's gone up, my wages aren't going up, I think I'm going to need to think outside the box. I've got a family. I think I need to do a little bit more. Or am I around the right people really at the moment? Because I don't want to be moaning about the petrol. I don't want to have a coffee every time I meet Sam and Jason and think, "Boys, are you struggling?" "No, we're loving life." "Well, I don't like filling up my car." Yeah. It's listening, reading, and watching the news affects your money future. It really does, right?
Yeah. There's a saying, like, you are the 5 people you spend your most time around, like, in terms of your income. And I've done studies on this myself, and I've found it to be pretty accurate. And the reason is, like, and basically, if you're listening, it's like the 5 people you spend most time around, add up all their income divided by 5, and you'll get roughly in the ballpark within 10 or 20 grand your annual income. So it's roughly, it's ballpark. But the reason for that is if you go out to dinner, and I've done this before, and you go out to dinner and you're with people who are earning 30 grand a year average, you are going to have 30 grand a year conversations, 30 grand a year problems, 30 grand a year solutions, 30 grand a year experience.
Yeah.
If you go to dinner with someone who's earning 150 grand a year, 200 grand a year, you're going to be talking about people who have got 200 grand a year problems, right? Yeah. 200 grand. So again, it goes back to the environment and being around people, the people of where you want to be. If you can level up and try and get around people who are earning 10 times you, or double what you're earning at least, you're going to start having different conversations, and you're going to start seeing different solutions to different problems, and talk about tax differently, and talk about, and you
might believe a little bit more.
Exactly. I'm still having conversations now. I was in Dubai with a load of billionaires on a yacht earlier this year, and they're talking about tax in a way that I've never heard. And it's like, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, just going,
now I know of it.
I love that we don't pay tax.
Yeah. No, but because it's their motivation to figure that out at that level. It isn't my motivation yet, but now I'm ahead because I know that now, right? So now I'm thinking about my own tax structure. I'm like, well, okay. So it all comes from just getting around different people.
There's going to be a real pessimistic return point to this and backfire, and there's going to be, well, how I don't have friends that make £200,000-300,000 a year.
Yeah.
My biggest thing, as I will say, is when I was 17, 18 years of age, I was working in the city. I was earning £18,000 a year running around selling. And the way I got up that ladder in the city, the way I earned more was, what did I do? I was constantly going to events.
Yeah.
Constantly trying to find those people to hang out with.
Yeah.
I did essentially at the age of 18 to 21, fake it till you make it. But, I found myself entering members clubs, trying to get involved, trying to create a picture of myself that I was doing way better than I was. And I ended up, sure enough, surrounded by people who were earning hundreds of thousands of pounds, to the point where I have friends now that sitting in the bar who are, in the tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions. So, it's the kind of idea is, oh, I don't have friends in the hundreds of thousands plus bracket. That's only because you don't want to try and expose yourself to those people.
Go to a better gym. Go to a better gym. If you play golf, go to a better golf club, a higher up golf club. Just bite off a little bit more than you can chew. Go to a nicer restaurant,
Go out
nicer
your comfort
clubs.
zone.
Yeah.
Leave the fucking pub and go into London.
Exactly.
Sacrifice the dinner with, your family, which, if you have 2 dinners a month with your family, or, you're going to somewhere else with some friends, sacrifice certain parts there and use those parts to do, like what we said, go to the nicer golf club, go to the nicer gym, go to the, members club that you can find, go to, do anything. There are a million ways to do
Save
this.
the 150 quid on booze and fags and buy the train ticket and pay for a couple of entries to networking. I say it all the time, networking.
And when you go to these places, it's just about asking the right questions. Lose the whole, I can't do that, that's not for me, I probably couldn't do that, and turn it into, how can I? How did you do that?
Yeah.
What do you do? Start asking those questions and you'll find those answers.
Be likeable. Don't have a chip on your shoulder. Don't walk in talking all this roadman fucking language. Talk like, welcome.
I don't think people watching this talk like that.
Oh, mate, but the thing is, there's this, this is another part of it, right? Is that there's this whole new sort of way of talking and stuff like that. Now that comes through your environment, but also it's funny because that holds a lot of people back as well. Yeah. But going into these places, that's where you can open your mind and think, this is like you say, this is not a 30 grand conversation. Like these, so I do need to talk differently. Like, I need to wear a different hat.
Yeah. If you're having conversations with people and you're going out to dinner with people, start asking yourself, what is in this for me? Like, what am I getting out of this? Seriously.
Be selfish.
Yeah. And just say, because I've got to start looking out for my future. What am I getting out of this? Because you'll probably find out that a lot of the time you're a shoulder to cry on, or they've just spent an hour moaning at you or dumping at you, and you've just come away exhausted, right? So just start being more selfish and just saying, look, what am I? If there's no fair exchange here, I need to go and find someone else to talk to.
Okay, so cool. Let's wrap this up. I'm going to ask for one best bit of advice to really, we're on the cusp of 2024, right? We've got a little bit of 2023 left. I see that 2024 could be, even if you're just starting out, I think if people really cut off the bad ones, make some really smart decisions, get a hold of themselves and their money, sit down, find out a real reason why, tangible one. Look, I'm doing this for the family, for my child, out of fear of being broke, whatever, right? I feel that 2024, as the new year, 12 months, you could change your life. I really, truly believe. 5 years, you could really build that empire. What would be your kind of one general bit of advice for 2024 to really sort of grab it by the balls?
I'm just going to wrap up what we've actually been saying. Self-belief. Surround yourself with the best people that you can, and fake it till you make it, and really just push yourself. And I think you can. You can do pretty much whatever you put your mind to, and do your passion. Yeah, do something you love.
Yeah, I'll just back that up with a more kind of like tangible, logical thing, and that's know your numbers. Like, just what does your actual lifestyle cost? Your dream lifestyle, what does that cost? Cost it up, and know the number, and then know what you need to earn in order to get that, because that'll give you a driver.
Yeah,
like a lot of
financial evaluation.
Yeah, evaluation. What you're spending, what your dream life costs, and then how much you need per month to actually make that work. That should get you. That'll get a fire in your belly in 24 for sure.
Love it, boys. Well, before we close off, we're climbing Snowdon in March.
Oh shit! Is that
I
still
forgot
happening?
about that. Yeah. That London to
you
Brighton
can't-
one took it out of me. Like, I nearly
can't-
died at the end of that.
And
I
by
was
the
like,
way,
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
bring
do
some
this.
food next time.
Yeah, bring
Yeah.
some food. The taxi won't take you to the bottom of Snowdon.
I mean, I can't believe I turned up to what was it, a 4-hour, 80-kilometer bike ride with no food and
Small
basically
bike,
a small bike, a
black
bike didn't
taxi.
fit.
lycra.
My water bottle dropped off after 10 kilometers.
Yeah, but you know what? As all those things happened to you, Jason was riding a single gear.
Yeah, yeah.
True.
You know,
I think my gears broke actually at one point. So yeah, I mean, it was pretty disastrous.
I remember we
we
stopped and we were like, we should probably feed Sam.
Yeah. No, no.
I was like a kid.
like the bike's pulling him.
Yeah. I felt like a kid that was like out of their depth with that.
You
So
caught
I'm
up at
really
the end,
looking forward
though.
to Snowdon now.
Yeah.
But just a quick funny one. That was hilarious towards the end with the lights where you just followed me and I was like, because I knew the roads at that point.
Yeah,
and you were
yeah.
like, he's not fucking waiting
Yeah, I was right behind
through
you.
every red.
It was like following an ambulance.
But yeah, March, we're going to be doing Snowdon, so that'll be a good laugh.
Yeah.
But guys, thanks so much. Obviously, this episode was all about money. And until next time, Jason Sam's links will be in the description and we'll see you all very soon.